Hi everyone, welcome back to Cynical. Today we're going to talk about Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another. Paul Thomas Anderson has been one of those filmmakers that I've absolutely loved for a really long time despite not having seen all of his films. I absolutely love a lot of his sensibilities as a filmmaker and director, although I don't feel as though he has a unique style and approach or notoriety as, say, a Jordan Peele or Quentin Tarantino. He's not the kind of director you can sell a movie on, and he doesn't have that unique, distinct style, quote unquote, that sets him apart from other directors. Every single one of his movies feels like a quintessential PTA film, but also feels very unique and different at the same time. One of the things I really respect about Paul Thomas Anderson as a director is that he is not one-trick pony when it comes to his filmmaking. Each one of his films are very unique and different from each other. He's a very unique filmmaker that can go from the dark as a dark material like The Master and the quiet, comedic, and quirky sensibilities of something like Punch Drunk Love. He's a very good filmmaker, and I was kind of shocked for his latest film, One Battle After Another, because of how, huge it was. The film's reported budget was anywhere from $110 to $140 million. This easily being Paul Thomas Anderson's highest budget yet, and yet he has never made a film that was a huge commercial hit. It seemed to be more of an action movie, which I guess understands the budget increase compared to his other flicks. I was pleasantly surprised at how much Warner Brothers was willing to invest in a filmmaker of that notoriety amongst film buffs, but not really amongst the general public. He's more niche, he's more specific, and he's more out there in terms of the kind of movies he makes, most of which aren't really commercial. So the fact that he even took on a project like this was absolutely shocking, as I wouldn't call a lot of his movies commercial, outside of, say, those romantic comedies like Punch Drunk Love, like I mentioned before, or even Licorice Pizza, which is a full-on hangout movie. So considering that most of you watching this video either are huge fans of the movie and want to hear someone else talk about it more, or you've never heard of this movie and you're a friend of mine who watches these videos because I send them to you, hi. I'm going to give a brief plot summary just so we can get out of the way and give you up to speed on what this movie is. As described on Google, so this is the general information. The film is about Bob, a washed-up revolutionary who lives in the state of his stoned paranoia, surviving off the grid with his spirited and self-reliant daughter, Willa. When his evil nemesis resurfaces and Willa goes missing, the former radical scrambles to find her as both father and daughter battle the consequences of their past. And that pretty much sums up a lot of the movie really well without spoiling anything, because it's one of those movies where there isn't a whole lot in terms of the plot. It has a ginormous runtime to boot, but rather than explain the intricacies of the plot and the beat-by-beat scenes, it's just better to explain to you what really works about this movie and let you figure out the story and plot in this. All I can say is about the film starting off is that all the performances are absolutely incredible, whether it be Leonardo DiCaprio's washed-up crazy Bob character. Leo I've always loved as a more comedic actor and stuff he's popped up in, whether it be Don't Look Up or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I absolutely love his more comedic, manic characters that are just screaming or on the edge all the time, especially his role as Rick Dalton in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think that's easily maybe my favorite performance he's ever given. And even though I'm not a big fan of Don't Look Up, his scenes in that movie are really funny and really, really great.
Daughter,
right.
Willa.
If you can't answer what time is it, I cannot give you the rendezvous point. This is a key tenet of the rebellion act. I'm surprised you can't name it. I don't know if you are who you say you are.
Okay.
I feel like the older he's gotten, the further he's gone away from his teen idol image that he got in the late 90s and 2000s, the better he's only gotten as an actor, as he could define himself more by the characters he plays, and rather than that Leo persona. Though, like a lot of his movies, I am constantly aware that I am watching Leonardo DiCaprio as opposed to the character he's playing sometimes. It's like the Tom Cruise thing. I can't watch a Tom Cruise movie without thinking Tom Cruise is just playing Tom Cruise. Benicio del Toro is maybe my absolute favorite from the cast. He is so goddamn funny in this. I've been quoting A Few Small Beers for weeks after watching this movie for the first time in IMAX 70mm.
I've had a few.
A few what?
A few small beers.
Gianna Taylor is brilliant in the movie. She really carries the first act of this movie, and she's incredible. Regina Hall gets a small role, and she doesn't really get a whole lot to do, but it's always nice to see her in a big movie like this. And newcomer Chase Infinity holds her own against both Sean Penn and Leonardo DiCaprio in this movie. Which, speaking of which, Sean Penn plays maybe one of the slimiest, scummiest villain characters I've ever seen in a big budget movie like this. He is disgusting, revile, and totally obnoxious, and he makes you horribly uncomfortable as you watch him on screen. Everyone just brings their A game to this, and the great part about it is that the filmmaking matches it. The action sequences are breathtaking in this. The comedic timing in this is hilarious. This is an action comedy through and through, and it's so goddamn funny and subversive and clever in ways that I don't necessarily want to spoil yet, but we'll get to later in the video. The Johnny Greenwood score is fantastic and helps with the pacing of the film, as you never really feel like you're watching a 2-hour, 40-minute film. And a lot of this can be attributed to the tight editing of the film, as again, it doesn't feel like that runtime. Every scene feels essential. Despite its long running time, there's no dicking about or wasted space in the film, and the Johnny Greenwood score just really amps up that energy, as well as keeping you engaged, even when there's slow dialogue scenes. It's a film in which I can't really nitpick and kind of pick around the corners of. It's a tightly written film that is wonderfully directed and executed, and I honestly can't say enough nice things about it, and it's not shocking at all that a film of this quality comes from Paul Thomas Anderson. The honest-to-God worst thing I could say about this movie is really just the marketing campaign has been really disappointing and underwhelming. I feel like a lot of this movie was built off the idea of its star power and not the director. Because PTA doesn't have that name or draw to him like Tarantino or Jordan Peele, Warner Brothers has basically bended themselves backwards and forwards trying to figure out how to market this movie, and I think they've largely failed. I think the marketing doesn't really do this movie justice at all, especially including the characters in Fortnite for some reason. It really feels like a lot of the marketing for this movie has been just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, and thus, as a result, the movie doesn't really have a target demographic other than it needs to hit the demographic that gets them over $300 million to break even, which it more than likely won't do, and I think it's been really disappointing to see this film that is so great be undermined and downplayed because of its box office. Although, unfortunately, that is just the current Hollywood industry right now. It's a very radical film. It is a very thoughtful film. It is a very big theatrical crowd pleaser, but also is very subversive and very, very radical. It speaks to the current time in terms of revolutionaries and politics and race relations and stuff like that, without ever being too preachy and too on the nose with it. Well, it is very on the nose. It's just not obnoxious in any way. You don't feel preached to, but you know exactly where the movie leans, at least towards one political side. I've already seen those one battle after another is woke videos, and honestly, any movie that gets that at this point is just an A+ in my book, so good. Remember when everyone told you the new Superman movie was woke because he was too much of a nice guy? Yeah, it's basically the same thing as this movie, so don't let those idiots dissuade you from watching this. It's a film that really speaks to the current times, and one that I didn't quite get a grasp on until the last 20 minutes or so. It's one of those movies that's very complicated and very intricate and kind of subversive in a way that's clever and ultimately really, really hilarious. And it reminded me of one classic film that I absolutely love from one of my favorite filmmakers that I need to talk about in spoilers. So I'm going to give this film a 10 out of 10. I want to get a quick review out there. I wanted to get this done weeks ago, but I had a lot of technical errors and stuff coming up in my life that I couldn't commit to it. But it's a 10 out of 10. Please go see this. I'm encouraging all my friends to go see this because this is amazing. Now let's get to the spoilerly stuff. So basically, a lot of this movie, with the way that the Bob character is portrayed, reminded me a lot of Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China. No, I'm not kidding.
Like I told my last wife, I says, honey, I never drive faster than I can see. Besides that, it's all in the reflexes.
I wish I was joking, but I'm not. I legitimately did think of the mid-'80s action classic that is Big Trouble in Little China. In so much so that both movies are films that predominantly star people of color in supporting roles and has a male character played by a huge A-lister, Big Trouble in Little China being Kurt Russell, and One Battle After Another, including Leo. And both of the male characters are framed as though they're going to be the heroes of the story, and both of them are incompetent dumbasses who can't keep their shit together.
I count to 3.
Hello,
I open that door, we move out.
Everybody got that?
Ready? Follow the leader. 1, 2, 3. We may be trapped.
I've seen a lot of comparisons between Leo and the dude, which I guess philosophically, I don't really see a whole lot in between other than they're both just kind of stoners. The dude has a very laid back approach to life that perpetuates this, informs that character. It's a very philosophical character and a lot quiet character who doesn't get himself engaged in action at all. If anything, the joke of that movie is rather the passiveness of that character rather than how he engages with the world around him, or the lack of the way he engages with the world around him. Whereas Leo is high as shit and drunk and is just trying to keep the plot together, and he sucks at it, trying to rescue his own daughter. They're two very different characters. No, what really drew me to compare this to Big Trouble in Little China was rather how the film portrays its male character, predominantly white character. Both of them are framed as almost these white savior characters in these large ensemble casts of mostly people of color, and by the end of the film, they're both dumbasses who end up barely doing anything, and by the end of the films, they ultimately contribute much of nothing to the actual plot, and rather it's the supporting characters that ends up saving the day. In Big Trouble in Little China, it's his best friend who ends up rescuing his own girlfriend, and in one battle after another, Leo is this former revolutionary who ends up trying to save the day and rescue his daughter who knows nothing about his revolutionary past, only for her to ultimately save herself by the end of the film, which is really awesome and clever subversion. And it wasn't until that moment, till after she did this and Leo pulls up at the very end being like, what the hell happened, that I fully understood what this movie was going for comedically. And I think that's kind of what makes it brilliant. It's this great action comedy, but it also is smart and intelligent enough to say something about the world we live in, as well as be subversive of other common tropes in American action movies. If this was any other movie, this would be a movie about Leo saving the day and rescuing his daughter. But in this movie, it's not. It's about his daughter discovering who she is. It's a journey and kind of coming-of-age story for her. And the film starts makes you think that, oh, this is going to be centered around Leo and trying to rescue his own daughter who is in over her head. She's stupid, she's incompetent, she doesn't have a cell phone, she's kind of angsty, and you think that he's going to get his shit together and rescue her and save the day, as it would be in any other movie like this. Like, think of a shitty straight-to-DVD movie starring Steven Seagal or something like that. But rather, it's a movie where she actually rescues herself. And again, it's not done in a very forced or cringy way, it's not preaching down and talking down to its audience. It just presents these as very matter of fact, and the movie's clever enough to let these scenes play out, have the characters' actions inform the story rather than you spelling out everything to the audience, what these characters think, how they feel, and how they grow and change. And that final sequence in which you realize that this was actually Willa's story the whole time and he reads out the letter from her estranged mother is beautiful and is the heart of the film. And while it takes a while to get to that central core and idea and heart of the movie, I can't deny that it was really effective and got, really hit me there. For a film that is as wacky and comedic and stark and serious and revolutionary as it is, it was almost nice and refreshing to see this optimistic view at the end of the film. If Eddington was the film commenting on the current state of the world that is very nihilistic and dark, One Battle After Another is one that is optimistic and hopeful for future generations. Because the whole idea of the film is that her parents end up letting them down. They start this revolutionary but they start using it as a thrill-seeking adventure. They get sloppy. They let the whole organization fall down. And it's up for the new generation of young people to pick up the pieces and put it back together to hopefully build a better world. It's almost as though you can draw upon as a parallel to our own world where Gen X generations may have let down millennials and Gen Z, and now it's those young Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and millennials to pick up the pieces and try to hopefully build a better world. It's a very optimistic film and something you wouldn't necessarily expect always from PTA. Though, like aforementioned films earlier, he is not above doing a happy ending or two, but it's refreshing, it's nice, and for me, that optimistic view rings more true to me than the absolutely bleak, cynic view of something like a film like Eddington. So, it really spoke to me and it got me there, and this is quite possibly my favorite film of the entire year, in part because of it. It's funny, it's beautifully shot, it's well acted, it's well scored, it's everything I want technically from a movie, but there is an underlining truth and optimism and call to action to the movie that just spoke to me in the current moment, and I didn't think that I could get that out of a Paul Thomas Anderson film. As much as a great filmmaker he is, a lot of his stuff, other than aforementioned Punch Drunk Love, haven't really spoken to me all that much. I love There Will Be Blood, Master is maybe one of the most uncomfortable movies I've ever seen, an exploration between cults and religion. But this is the one that personally really hit home for me. That being said, I have still not seen Magnolia or Phantom Thread, so I will definitely need to watch those films after seeing this. But yeah, this is really special. This is up there for one of the best films of the year. Even if this doesn't become a huge box office hit, which is pointing to right now, this will be a huge awards film, and rightfully so. This deserves to be in the Best Picture conversation for the year. And I'll be excited to cover it when those conversations come up. Before you go, though, I do want to talk about one small thing on this channel. For anyone who's been following this YouTube channel and has known me since high school, you know that I'm kind of obsessed with a certain movie franchise. And when I was 17, I made a video talking about the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer. And in spite of that video being up for a long time, I never actually reviewed the movie when it came out. I was still in school and had other things on my mind, as well as kind of putting everything down in a letterbox review at the time that basically summed up my initial impressions after one viewing of the movie. As a matter of fact, it has been so long since they released this film that we've since gotten a direct sequel to it. So not only am I so late to this movie that it's been nearly 4 years since it came out, they've literally come out with a direct sequel since then. And I didn't review either when it came out because, well, I was making a film. And I was in college in Los Angeles interning. So, like, can you blame it, man? So, considering how long it's been, I think about this time for Halloween this year, we are in the spooky season, and I need to put my spooky Halloween backdrop in front of me. I think it's about time that we gave these movies the proper deep dive that they deserve. Will I get this video actually out by Halloween? I have no idea, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. So, in the next video, we're talking about the damn movie franchise that I've been teasing and referencing in every single video, even without trying. So look forward to that next week. But while I still got your attention, before you go, these videos are just quickly becoming me, just flexing all the cool shit I have in my bedroom that I waste all my money on because, I don't know, because I'm bored and I need something to fulfill my life. You probably can't see anything on this. Probably can't even see this. Hold on. Don't crush my DVDs or my sleep. Yeah. Hopefully that caught and register on camera. So yeah, next video, we're gonna talk about Ghostbusters finally. I am such a dork, but I do not give a single shit.